Hi, my name is Ella. I'm 25 years old and I am someone who has type 1 narcolepsy. And today I'll be reading you the story called Before You Sleep. So this is a book written by a family friend of mine and it's dedicated to his son who passed away when he was just 4 years old. Adam is an angel and lives on a cloud and makes his mummy and daddy so proud. With long golden hair you just could not miss. He always has time for a hug and a kiss. The message he sends from his cloud every day is to spend more time with each other and play. The most important thing in life's simply this: show love for your family with a hug and a kiss. It's time to sleep. Before you go, there's something I really want you to know. I love you much more than a big sandy beach, with sand dunes so high they seem far out of reach. I love you much more than things that we've made on a hot sunny day with our bucket and spade. To build a castle from sand would be great, with seaweed for a roof and seashells for a gate. We could run to the rocks and could use them as blocks, and for a flag on the top we could use someone's socks. I love you much more than the sun, moon and stars, and even much more than the red planet Mars. I love you much more than the outer space tune sung to the world by the man on the moon. If we could fly in a big rocket ship, what fun would we have on our magical trip? We could speed through the clouds to the heavens above and tell outer space aliens all about love. I love you much more than the burning bright sun. I love it so much when we play and have fun. I love you much more than the world's tallest trees, and even much more than a hug and a squeeze. If we were a bee, think of all we could see as we fly to the top of the world's tallest tree. We could fly all around the daisies and roses, floating on the air with sweet smells for our noses. I love you much more than the deepest blue sea. I love you so much when you swim beside me. I love you much more than the sea's octopuses going to school on their submarine buses. If we could sail on a big pirate ship, we could walk the long plank and take a quick dip. How great would it be to find us some treasure made up of toys? That would be such a pleasure. I love you much more than the world's biggest plane that could fly us up high and away from the rain. I love you so much when I hold your sweet hand as we speed through the air to a faraway land. To fly around the world in a big jumbo jet would be a great trip that we'd never forget. High up in the skies, we'd get such a surprise to see wonderful things with our very own eyes. I love you much more than a big dinosaur that ruled over the earth with his big scary roar. I love you much more than a big grizzly bear who could scare a T-Rex with a very cross stare. If we could travel back into the past in a big time machine, we would have such a blast. We could find a volcano, dress up as cavemen, and watch it exploding again and again. I love you much more than a Halloween night when we dress up as ghosts and give people a fright. I love you much more than a witch loves her broom, mixing up potions in her spell-making room. If we could dress up and do trick-or-treats, we could fill up our bag with some nuts and some sweets. We could light a candle in a big pumpkin's head and eat some of our sweets before we went to bed. I love you much more than a Christmas Eve night, when Santa makes Rudolph's red nose shine so bright. I love you much more than the elves' clever tricks used to make presents that every child picks. If we could fly to the North Pole and land, we could deliver our letter to Santa by hand. We could help all the elves load up Santa's sleigh and wave to the reindeers as they fly away. I love you much more than the world's biggest truck, picking up boulders and scooping up muck. I love you much more than red dynamite that makes a big bang with red flashes of light. If I drove a crane and you drove a digger, we could both work together to make mountains bigger. We could dress up as builders and bright yellow hats and build some apartments for eagles and bats. I love you much more than the world's biggest slide, even much more than a roller coaster ride. I love you much more than a big theme parade with singing and dancing as sweet music played. To go to a fun park would be so magic, and we could buy a big ice cream and give it a lick. Imagine that day if you could be boss. You could buy sugar popcorn and eat candy floss. The person who loves you so much like no other is the person that loves you the most, and your mother. She loves you so much 'cause you grew in her tummy, and that is why she is your wonderful mummy. Night, night, sleep tight, my bundle of joy. I love you much more than my favourite toy. My love for you is as bright as sunlight. Sweet dreams, my love. I bid you good night. And that's the end. I have one more story to tell, and it is a traditional Irish legend or myth, and it's called Tír na nÓg, and I'm just going to be reading it from my iPad. Once upon a time, many years ago, there lived a great warrior named Oisín, son of legendary Fionn McCool. McCool was leader of the Fianna, a group of great protectors who guarded the King of Ireland. And each day, Oisín and the Fianna explored the beautiful green hills of Ireland as they hunted the land. One day, Oisín and the Fianna saw a beautiful white horse in the distance, and on its back was the most beautiful young woman they had ever seen. Her hair was the colour of the sun and fell to her waist, and she wore a dress of palest blue, studded with stars. She was surrounded by a golden light. As the beautiful woman and her horse drew nearer, all men stopped in their tracks, waiting to hear what she had to say. "My name is Niamh," said the golden-haired maiden. "My father is king of the mystical land of Tír na nÓg, a land that knows no sorrow and where nobody ever ages. I have heard wonderful things of a great warrior named Oisín, and I have come to take him back with me to the land of eternal youth." Oisín immediately fell in love with Niamh, and although he was sad to be leaving his father and the Fianna, he agreed to join Niamh on horseback to go and live with her in Tír na nÓg, promising Fionn McCool that he would return to Ireland to see him again soon. The fine white horse galloped across silver seas into the magical land of Tír na nÓg. As Niamh had promised, this was a land where nobody knew sadness and where nobody ever aged. Everyone there lived forever. Together, Niamh and Oisín spent many happy times together, although there was a small part of Oisín's heart that was lonely. He missed his homeland of Ireland and longed to see his father and the Fianna again. Oisín begged Niamh to let him return to Ireland, but she was reluctant. Although Oisín thought only a few years had passed, it had been 300 years back in Ireland, in the land of Tír na nÓg. Since time slowed down, he hadn't realised. Eventually Niamh saw how much Oisín missed his family. She agreed to let him return to Ireland to see them again. "Take my magical white horse," she told him. "Do not get off this horse, and do not let your feet touch the ground, or else you will never be able to return to Tir na Nog again." Oisín set off across seas on Niamh's white horse and arrived in Ireland. When he got there, he could see that things had changed. The Fianna no longer hunted green hills, and the grand castle that once housed his family was crumbling and covered in ivy. As he was searching for someone familiar in the green hills, Oisín came across some old men who were having difficulty trying to move a huge rock. He leaned down from his horse to help them, but in doing so he lost his balance and fell from the horse. The moment Oisín touched the soil, he immediately aged the 300 years that he had missed in Ireland. An old, frail man, Oisín asked the men he had stopped to help about his father, Fionn McCool, and they told him that Fionn had died many years before. Broken-hearted and many hundred years old, Oisín died soon after, but not before he shared his legends and stories of the Fianna and his father, the great Fionn McCool, and the magical land of eternal youth that is Tir na Nog. And even today in Ireland, these legends live on. Thank you, that's the end.